Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. Boy, do we have a lot to get into. The NHL playoffs begin for the Penguins on Tuesday night in New York. We'll break it all down. But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Steelers as we look back at their 2022 draft. And here to do that is your panel tonight. We have Mark Kaboly from The Athletic, Jeff Hathhorn, 93.7 The Fan, and Josh Yohe from The Athletic as well. Mark, we'll start with you. The pick is Kenny Pickett. He was the only quarterback taken in the first two rounds. #1, how much of a surprise was that for you? And #2, was this the correct pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Well, I was a little surprised by it, more so than, what was happened afterwards a little bit. I mean, when you don't see a quarterback taken until 55 other picks, you have to wonder, what did the Steelers see in all of this quarterbacks that were supposedly lumped together and not much separating them than the rest of the organizations? There was 7 teams, maybe potential 11 spots ahead of the Steelers where there were quarterback needy teams that decided to pass on him for one reason or another. So that makes you worry just a little bit. I mean, Kenny Pickett, he's in a tough situation right now. I mean, you could be one of the top quarterbacks. How many guys have we seen #1 overall struggle? It's just an inexact science of picking quarterbacks in this league. There's been so many failures. So I don't know how he's going to be. I'm okay with the pick just because you're probably just going to have to keep taking chances and chances and chances until you get this thing right. You look behind Pickett, and there wasn't a ton of great players that you're like, I wish I would have had Trent McDuffie. Wish I would have had Dax Hill. But I think it's an uphill battle for him. I think the Steelers liked his intangibles. I don't know if intangibles wins you championships, but I guess I can convince myself that it was a okay pick. But I think it's going to be a long haul for him. I think it's not going to be something he's going to come in and be good right away. I think it's going to take work. He could be a bust, he could be a boom, or he could be an average guy. And I don't know if you want that at 20th overall.
Of course, we're judging all of this on mock drafts where people may not really know what teams think of quarterbacks or other players. The mock drafts had all the quarterbacks. They had him. One time, Malik Willis was the #2 overall pick in some mocks, and then that stuff changes. It is just very unpredictable. I think this with Kenny Pickett, they did not reach for him at 20. I think if Jordan Davis would have been there, that's a different story. I think if Hamilton would have been there, maybe it's a different story. But they had to need a quarterback. They felt he's a good, Mike Tomlin used the phrase low or high floor guy. I think it was a good pick at 20.
I like the pick, too. First of all, and I know nobody really cares about this, but it's a great story. Like, I hope we all still have sports fans in us, even though we're in the media. We're all sports fans. This is great. This is probably the second best pick quarterback ever behind Dan Marino. Just got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wonderful story. I can't wait to see how it plays out. My only real concern with Kenny, he was only really a star for one season. If he had done it for 2 or 3 years, I'd probably feel a little more comfortable with the pick, but I certainly understand why the Steelers did it. They obviously know him better than any other NFL team. They could watch him practice every day if they wanted to. I'm sure if there were any red flags about Kenny, they would have heard about it. And he does certainly have the intangibles. And boy, have they ever surrounded him with a lot of skill position guys. So it's not like he's being set up to fail. He's got a lot of talent around him. Let's just see if he can make it work. I'm cheering for him. I hope he does. Like I said, it's a great story. And my favorite thing about Kenny, he's smart. He knows how to read defenses, and he's accurate. So maybe he doesn't have Patrick Mahomes' arm, but you don't need that to be a good NFL quarterback.
But you do need an offensive line, and I'm not so sure they have one that's appreciably better. They didn't do anything in the draft. We'll get to that later. But, Mark, it comes down to maybe Trubisky versus Kenny Pickett. Keep in mind, Mitch Trubisky was #2 overall pick, has experience. He's not that much older than Kenny Pickett. So who wins that battle?
I think Kenny Pickett wins that battle. I think he's going to have an implosion here in OTAs, minicamp, training camp for him not to get that job. Just to hear Colbert and Tomlin speak about him and the maturity level. And when I hear the maturity level, I think obviously that was a big reason why they picked him. And if you're usually when you get some of these quarterbacks, they're younger, they're not mature, they're not ready for this situation. So taking that into account, and there's probably not much I mean, let's face it, Trubisky and Pickett are very similar quarterbacks in their style and what they like to do. But I think they have to give him, and I think he will start this opener and give him every opportunity to win it. I mean, if not, then why do you take it? Why do you take the 20th with the 20th overall pick? Let him learn with those young guys, with some of those young interior offensive linemen, the young running back. And if you're going to take some lumps early, so be it. But I think it's Kenny Pickett's job from the start.
Listen, they've drafted Kenny Pickett to be their next quarterback, but I'm not convinced that he's going to start the first game of the season. I think Mitch Trubisky is going to be given every opportunity to win that job. He's going to have obviously more NFL experience, and there are things they like about him, and I think it's really up to him to really fall on his face. I think Trubisky has a good chance to be the starting quarterback. Remember when Ben Roethlisberger came up, he started as a third-team quarterback. I know Pickett is farther along. He's played against higher competition. He's going to be 24 years old. But I think Trubisky will get every shot, and I think Trubisky will be the starting quarterback for Game 1.
You know, all the Steelers fans who happen to be Penn State fans are now huge Mitch Trubisky fans. I can feel this coming a mile away. I'm sure they'll be pulling for him in training camp in a big way. It's interesting that, like Mark said, they have very similar skill sets. They're about the same size. They don't have huge arms. They're fairly mobile. It wouldn't surprise me if Trubisky looks better in training camp. He probably should. It's not his first go-around, so that's where it gets interesting if you're the Steelers. Maybe this guy can help you. Trubisky can help you win more games in September and October. But you know Kenny's the guy, so when does Mike Tomlin make the decision to go with Kenny? I suspect Trubisky might be given the first crack. Maybe he'll start the opener, but I have to think at some point during the season, we're going to see Kenny Pickett on the field. That's why they drafted him.
Preseason games will be very exciting to watch here on KDKA. Real quick, 1 minute left, so I need 20 seconds from each of you. Why, Mark Kaboly, did they take Chris Oladuka in the 7th round, a quarterback? Again, what's the message behind that?
At least we know they bring 4 quarterbacks to camp all the time, so they needed that camp arm. I guess the only thing you can read into that is they didn't think they liked him. They didn't think they were going to get him in the undrafted free agent pool, and maybe they're thinking they're moving on from Mason Rudolph and his save $3 million. Other than that, it's just a waste of picks. So I would imagine that's what's in their mind.
Yeah, they had their running back Durant out of Duke and the undrafted free agents, so they had that, and I had a few of those guys locked up. I just think, to Mark's point, it's a camp arm with an opportunity if there's injuries to who knows.
Yeah, that was my thought. I'm guessing they weren't too enamored with anyone else who was on the board at that time. They wanted the extra arm, and I have to think Mason Rudolph's days are numbered in Pittsburgh. I don't know that there's much point in keeping him, and for his sake, let him go to another team where he has a chance to be the guy, because he certainly isn't going to get that in Pittsburgh.
That could be risky if there's some injuries along the way. We'll talk about that. When we come back, we have other Steeler topics to get into, and then later we'll get into the Penguins and the Rangers, and what do the Penguins have to do to avoid a first-round exit again? We'll get into it all coming up right here. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown on KDKA.
#1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by #1 Cochran. Go one better.